We couldn't. You see
Something
there.
was wrong.
Yeah, there are some styles you see in those pornography that if you are not careful, you'll end up in a wheelchair. You understand the positions you put your body through and everything. So, my wife just
So you
said,
don't get paralyzed.
yeah, my wife just said, I don't think this will work for. And you see, whatever you see in porn, it's been acted over a period of time, which they joined together to look
You will
like
now
one
think
movie.
it's one thing.
Yeah, and you see, another thing that porn does to you is this. You see, there's something called a neural pathway in your brain. When you do something once, you do it twice, it creates a neural pathway and it forms a habit. So if you are used to watching porn, after some time, your brain becomes altered and then you lose desire for the real thing.
So you only
So,
respond to
yeah, so
pornography.
the satisfaction you ought to be getting from the main one, you are getting it from pornography, and then you have no use for the main one again.
That's
So,
sad.
yeah, although we didn't know this much then, we decided that we didn't want to go
This
on with
wasn't what you wanted.
pornography. So, somebody now recommended a book to us called Acts of Marriage by Tim LaHaye. That book was written by a Christian and it was very, very graphic, very, very graphic. It painted everything. So we read that book and then I understood how to really satisfy my wife and take her there. We made mistakes, but the more mistakes we made, the more we were able to learn because we
Learning.
were both willing to learn. And then we kept getting better and better till that level we got to where I can satisfy my wife. So, in those days, I'll be the one always demanding for sex. My wife would just do it as a sense of duty. But now, at times, she's the one who initiates it. At times you wake up, you've slept, and the next thing you meet something in your mouth. You know what I mean? Your wife is putting something in
Mm,
your mouth, and you understand because it's all about romance. So a lot of people are in marriage. Like we were talking to someone one day, and the woman said she's been 15 years married and she's never had an orgasm.
no,
And she's never had an orgasm because her husband doesn't know how to take her there. And that's why a lot of people, when they don't get these things, they go and outsource both the man and the woman, get it from
to get
somewhere.
it somewhere else and come
So,
and pretend in marriage.
of course, so like a couple had been married for 30 years, and one day their marriage broke up because the wife traveled abroad. And when she traveled abroad, the husband, one way or the other, got caught in some vices and went to meet another woman, and that woman satisfied him sexually in bed. And the man said he wasn't doing again.
Oh, he won't even come back.
Of course. So, sex is one of the key things. A lot of
Sex is
people,
important.
very, very important. A lot, and you see, it's not just about having children. It's meant to be for pleasure and enjoyment that you keep looking forward to it.
Absolutely. I like the fact that you said that your wife came to you and made you understand how she felt. Because in this part of the world, like, so instead of them to accept that they are not able to satisfy the woman or the wife, change it and be like, maybe you're loose. So
Mm,
can you talk on that a little bit?
issue is vulnerable as a weakness,
Okay.
but the truth is that vulnerability is actually a strength.
Yeah.
You understand? If
It
you're
takes a
not
strong
vulnerable,
person.
it takes a strong person to admit his mistakes and learn from them. So when my wife came, she didn't come in an accusative way.
Yeah.
She just told me what the issue was, and I knew that I was the problem. And when she was telling me, she didn't say you. She kept using we.
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 Okay.
It's our
Okay.
problem.
Okay. So
So
it made sense to you.
yeah, it made sense to me. So we decided to go and learn. And there were two issues then. I was always ejaculating very fast. So, and it doesn't take a man long, and then I'll leave her hanging. So, from that book, I had to learn how to hold myself. And the truth is this: when you are making love to a woman, take your mind off the ejaculation, start thinking of something else. Because you see, you can only focus on one thought. So, as you are doing the job, you can be thinking of a football match. So, that will
Occupy your
it
mind
will occupy
till
your mind and hold you back a bit. So it now got to a state that we were able to do it in such a way that we would always climax at the same
same
time.
time.
And I'll tell you something, we are not yet perfect. We are still a work in progress, but I can tell you that it's much, much better than it used to be. We went for a marriage seminar sometime in 2016, and one guy came and the guy was lamenting. He said that the last time himself and his wife made love was 9 months ago. that his wife is a very wicked woman, that she has withheld sex from him. So, but I've learned something, never to listen to one side of the story. I now asked him that, is it possible for you to bring your wife over? He said, of course, he will bring her over. So reluctantly, she came. And then when she began to give her own side of the story, she said, number one, her husband doesn't satisfy her. Number two, is always too rough with her, bruises her, and so many things. And that anytime she tells him, he gets angry.
The
So,
more
yeah, so she decided to shut down. So, proper communication would have solved that
that
problem,
problem.
but it was never communicated properly. After, so it was there for 9 months. So we told them what to do. We sent them materials. It wasn't rosy, but after a while, because they were both
Eventually.
cooperative, they got there.
Wow. Wow. It's still the BRR show. We're learning so much from Pastor Wole Olusola, and then we've been talking about how to deal with the most common marriage problems. This is a serious issue, like it's a very, very huge topic. And then he's told us the three first most common marriage problems. And then, of course, there are others, like you said, financial problems,
Yeah, there are financial problems. For example, uh, myself and my wife, like I was discussing with someone before we started the show. I used to be an investment banker, and I rose very quickly. At the point, I was managing director of an asset management firm. But something happened. I did an investment during the capital market crisis in
Yeah,
2008,
I
and
remember.
I lost all my money. So, losing the money led me into depression. Although then I didn't understand that it was depression, I thought it was a spiritual problem. So I tried to treat it in a spiritual way, but nothing
Praying
happened.
and
Yeah, praying and fasting. And because I was also the head of the intercessory department of my church, and that intercessory department alone had 5,000 members. So I was like someone you would call a spiritual juggernaut. So I thought it was a spiritual problem, but the thing refused to go away. So after a while, from depression, I became suicidal.
danger.
Now, the moment you are depressed, you begin to go through stress. And when you are going through stress, your cognitive abilities begin to shut down gradually till you find yourself in a position where you are not able to make the right decisions. So one day, without planning, I resigned my job. It was a seven-figure monthly salaried job. I resigned it, no savings. And then when I resigned that job, no means of livelihood again. I didn't really know what I was doing. So from a seven-figure monthly salary, I moved to a situation where 1,000 naira a month was a major testimony. We really suffered. They sent us out of the house,
That
quit
is
notice,
crazy.
and everything. So we had financial issues, no money. But you see, before the financial setback came, myself and my wife, we've never hidden anything from us.
Okay.
My wife knows every money I make. I know every money she makes.
There's transparency
Yeah,
in your
full
finances.
transparency. She knows my password. She has access to my bank account. One day we went to a shopping mall to buy something. When it was time to pay, my wife said, "Oga, oga, oga, bring out your ATM card." So she said, "Bring out your ATM card." So my wife took my ATM and then she gave the sales guy. So when the sales guy put it inside the POS and wanted to swipe,
Yeah.
he said,
Asking for
"Oga,
pain.
your password." My wife now pushed me back jokingly and entered the pin. The guy said, "You mean you know his password?" My wife said, "Of course, we are one." The guy
So
was
he was
shocked.
shocked.
He was shocked.
Because that's probably is an unusual situation.
Very unusual. But you see, the truth is this: the man and the woman were naked, and there was no
No
secret between
shame.
them. So my wife knows it's not my money. It's not her money. It's our money.
Money.
So whatever. So you see a lot of couples, no full financial disclosure. Number one. And number two, when there's financial pressure, somebody decides that it's time to leave and stuffs like that. And let me tell you something.
Right.
You see, you brought that woman from her parents. She wasn't suffering. So you cannot bring her into that marriage and make her suffer. All these things, I love you, you are the love of my life. It's easier to say it when there's money.
When there's money.
But when there's no money, it becomes difficult. You understand? You see, during that period, there was one day that there was no food in the house. The only thing we had was flour. And my wife mixed that flour, used her last 100 naira to buy milk, and then she made pancake
Pancakes.
for the children, my son and my daughter. My son is 15 now, my daughter is 12. But myself and her had nothing to eat. So we just sat down, looked into the darkness, no light in the house because NEPA had cut off the lights. We couldn't pay a
For
bill of
lack
20,
of.
yeah, a bill of 25,000 for 7 months. We couldn't pay 25,000, which we used to spend on one meal at a point. So we just sat down in the darkness and we are just singing, "Yes, Jesus loves me." Yes, after there was nothing to do. All of a sudden, my phone flashed. I had a text message, but I wasn't expecting anything from anybody. So I didn't check the text. But my wife now said 5 minutes, "Baby, you got a text. Why don't you check it?" I opened my phone and I saw that it was a credit alert from GT Bank. It was a credit alert for 15,000 naira, an ATM transaction that I had done months before. They reversed it that night,
Wow.
and my wife just burst into tears. And that night we went straight into the market to buy food just to eat. So we went through financial pressure together. So you see, a lot of couple cannot handle financial pressure when it comes. So I tell people, especially those of us who are religious people, some people will tell you that I can't take that vow for better for
For
worse.
what?
No, 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 no. It's for better
Better
for
for
better. But you
worse.
see, the truth is that you are not being realistic.
For better for
There
stay.
will
For
be
worse for go.
challenges. There will be challenges in
There
marriage.
must be.
There must be. But the truth about these challenges is that both of you come together
To
as
fight
one
him.
and you fight it and you overcome. So when there's financial pressure, it makes a lot of marriages to break because they don't understand the concept of marriage.
Marriage
So
itself.
my commitment in marriage is not really to my wife. My commitment in marriage is to the institution of marriage
Itself.
itself, and that's why we are still standing.
Wow. Wow. Good to hear that. Okay, so talking about finances in marriage. When you wanted to list the major problems in marriage, I thought
Mm.
it was going to be finances first. I didn't know it was going to be unfaithfulness, but
And you know why? If you have money, it can mask some of the problems,
okay,
some
but
of
they
the
are
other
still there.
issues, but they are still there. So money can mask it. You are satisfied and everything. So you might not really think about the others. But you see, money is a magnifier. When there's no money,
Hmm.
everything begins to
So
show up. Every other thing begins to show up.
okay, okay. Right away, we're just going to go into recently, sadly,
Mm.
the music minister was killed
Mm.
by her husband, according to what we're hearing. And this is due to domestic violence
Mhm.
in marriage. And I just have a question. You're a Christian. As a matter of fact, you are a pastor. Um, what what are the things that leads to domestic violence in marriage?
Well, I'll tell you very candidly that things hardly go wrong in life. They start wrong. Things hardly go wrong.
Okay, they hardly go wrong.
They start wrong.
Okay,
So the cracks, the red flags
has been there.
are always there right from the beginning. And I'll tell you that the number one reason for failed marriages and eventually domestic violence is wrong choice of partner.
Partner. That is
Yeah.
the foundational
That's the
problem.
yeah, that's the foundation for many of these problems in marriage. And in most cases, even at the point where they come for premarital counseling, it's too late. Because the reason why they came for premarital
It's
counseling
because they want to get
is
married.
because they want to get
They
married.
fixed the date already.
You understand? So whatever you are
Printed
telling them
IP.
at that point, they are just doing the motions.
So
It's not
it's
making any sense.
to fulfill all
Yeah,
righteousness
just to fulfill all righteousness. Then say make we do counseling. That's why we
for
are
three
here.
months.
Yeah. So the problem in most cases is wrong choices. And right from when you are in a relationship before you get married, the red flags are there. As a matter of fact, these red flags are even red curtains. You see see
It's
them,
glaring.
they are very glaring, but for one reason or the other, he will change.
She
She
will
will change.
change.
And then they go headlong into marriage, and the monster becomes a hydra headed monster. Now, I'll tell you one thing,
Okay.
there's something we call programming or scripting. Now, whatever you go through, your experiences in life, your exposure, your education in life, the environment you grew up in life, everything is going to end up programming you. What am I saying? So, if the kind of education you got from about marriage is from someone whose marriage has failed, you have been programmed to have a failed marriage.
Wow.
If your exposure is only to people who have nothing good about marriage, you have been programmed. If your experience of marriage was from your mom and your dad always fighting, where they turned their bedroom into a ring and you and your siblings were the spectators and the fans, you have been programmed for a bad marriage. And environment that we grew up in programs us for marriage. So you find out that most of the people who engage in domestic violence saw their parents doing it.
It's in them.
Yeah, their environment programmed them for that, their exposure, their experiences, their education. You know why? Because what a man sees happening repeatedly, what a woman sees happening repeatedly, is what they are going to take into marriage. So when you marry someone, you are not just marrying that person, you are marrying their history, you are marrying their exposure, you are marrying their education, you are marrying their experiences, you are marrying
Background.
their environment, you are bringing everything in. So a young couple came to meet me on Saturday night, my PA. So when he came with his fiancée. And then we started talking about marriage. And I said, see, I will never give you guys my consent to go and marry. You don't really need my consent, but the truth is that I must see some things in place before I can say, go and get married. You know why? It's easier to prevent a marriage than for them to divorce. So while we were talking, my son was there, 15 years old. I now told my PA in my son's presence, I said, do myself and your mommy quarrel? He said, of course, you do. You have this agreement. I said, but how far does it go? He said, you have never ever raised your voices on each other, that
Wow.
you rather walk away, and that you have never laid hands on each other. So, when my son finished answering, I now told my parents, I said, see, we've programmed this boy for marriage. When he goes
Already.
into
Even
marriage,
if he doesn't read any book,
exactly, when he goes into marriage, what he will go and replicate there
it's what he
is
has been
what he has
saying.
seen his parents doing. So that's his own concept of marriage. That's his own idea of marriage. So a child that grows up seeing his parents fighting each other will believe that marriage is all about
It's
fighting.
difficult,
He
yes.
will think that marriage is all about hitting your spouse. He will think that marriage is all about beating each other.
Mhm.
So that's where domestic violence starts
Comes
from.
in.
That's the number one thing, where that person is coming from. And the number two reason is this. You see, I am a certified life coach. I'm a pastor. I'm a certified neurolinguistic programming practitioner. I'm also a certified cognitive behavioral therapist. And I understand that 3 out of every 5 Nigerians have mental health issues. Now,
That is a huge
yeah, yeah,
statistic.
yeah, it's based on World Health Organization. Now, when I'm talking of mental health issues, I'm not talking of the madman you see on the streets walking around naked.
Mm.
Anxiety is a mental health issue. Depression is a mental health issue. And I'll tell you,
Even though they're not recognized in this
yeah,
part of the world.
but you see, but we need to create that awareness. And I'm telling you what's happening. You see, an average Nigerian is traumatized.
From a lot of things.
Yeah, because we go through a lot of stress. You are where a journey of 15 minutes, you spend 3 hours. You can't get petrol, this and that. So we are traumatized. And you see, a traumatized person who doesn't know how to deal with it takes that trauma into his marriage because he has to let out that emotional outburst. Then he lets it out on his spouse. So a lot
Wow.
of people have mental health issues and they don't
They
know.
don't even recognize
They
it.
don't
So
recognize it
they
and they
just do
don't,
everything anyhow.
yeah, and they take them into marriage. So aggravated aggression, many of the times, leads to domestic violence. And I tell people, once a man or a woman has done it once, if you don't
There's
do
a
anything about it,
tendency
there's that
that
tendency
it will
that they will
continue
do it again and again.
again and again. Okay, all right. You know, recently when the death of Osinachi was announced, I saw a post. Let me say, an ignorant pastor
Mm,
that wrote, "Everybody is going to die, so there are different ways how you're going to die. It's better you embrace your." Well, he sure
mm,
wrote something very
mm.
ignorant, and you know, there were people supporting him. Funny enough, so I have a question for that. Is divorce a sin?
Oh,
You
absolutely.
already told us that the foundational problems of that leads to domestic violence is basically choosing the wrong life partner.
Mm.
That's the foundational problem. But then, what of those that are already in it? They've chosen the wrong person, and they need to move on or do something about it. Is divorce a sin?
No, divorce is not a sin.
Okay.
You know, a lot of people take the Bible out of context and make God to say what He hasn't said. God hates divorce,
Yeah.
but He does not hate the divorcee.
The same
Very,
way he
very,
hates the thief,
yeah.
but not the person.
The same way, no, He
He
hates
hates
the stealing,
stealing, but not the
but He
person who
doesn't hate the
thief.
thief. And that thief on the cross is a vivid example.
Absolutely.
God hates the sin, but He doesn't hate the
The
sinner.
person.
What God is interested in is in the restoration of the sinner. So you see, God now, you see, the God that many of us have been introduced to does not exist. That God that needs to see me as a coach who has anger issues does not exist in the Bible. You know why?
Why?
Because God is first and foremost a father. If I can love my own children,
Regardless what they do,
regardless of anything, and God says that as imperfect as I am, if I can love my own children,
how
look,
much more?
yeah, He said, how much more Him? So God is first of all a father. And you see, this mindset has always been there. And that was one of the reasons why they killed Jesus. They said because He committed blasphemy by calling God His father.
Father, yes.
So people have not been trained to see God as a father. See, you are God's child, and He valued you enough to send His only begotten Son to die for you. There is absolutely nothing that you can do that will make God turn His back on you.
That will shock him.
If
And God
He,
will now be like,
yeah,
ah,
now, if He sent His Son to die for you when you were a worthless sinner, tell me what you can do now that
that
will make
will
Him turn His back on you, including
absolutely
divorce.
nothing.
Now, God hates divorce, but I believe as a father, He would rather have a daughter that is alive, a son that is alive, rather than one
Than
that
the dead
dies in
one.
marriage due to domestic violence. You understand?
Yeah.
That's the side people don't see about God. And another thing is this: even if divorce was a sin, there's no sin that is not forgivable, number one, and there's no sin that has not been forgiven at the cross of Christ. Because you see, our past, present, and future sins have been forgiven. The Bible says in, if I'm allowed to quote the Bible,
No, you're allowed,
Hebrews,
absolutely.
yeah, Hebrews 10:14 says that He has by one sacrifice, not many sacrifices, He
Just
has by
one.
one sacrifice forever perfected those who have been sanctified, not perfected for a few months, forever. And that's why He sat down, because His work is finished. There's nothing else to do. If I am a father and my daughter is being violated in marriage, I'll bring her out of that marriage,
Thank you.
because I don't want to bury my daughter. It's
What do you
within,
want to prove?
exactly, what am I trying to prove? It's within my control, so I'll bring her out. So when we coach and counsel domestic victims of domestic violence, we tell them to separate, get your
Not
sanity.
necessarily divorce, but
Not necessarily,
separate.
yeah, divorce is the last option. Because you know why? Many pastors that say foriti,
Badra for
hang on, they are the ones that will eventually come and conduct the burial of that woman
quietly.
or that man when she died. Because
Yes.
there have been instances lately of women also killing men in
Yes,
marriages.
yes,
So
yes.
although,
It's more like before you kill me, I'll kill you.
yeah, one of us has to die. It won't be me. You understand? Although it's more prevalent to women. So you see, divorce is not a sin for as long as it is for the right reason of
Reason.
domestic violence. I can be quoted anywhere. As a father, I won't allow my daughter or my son to go through domestic violence. So that's why we must get it right from the beginning.
You know, I heard about somebody who said that she was going through domestic violence in her marriage, and it was difficult for her to talk to anybody. That's one of the signs. The shame. You're like, how will I tell someone that this is what my husband is doing? But then she gathered enough, strength, and she spoke to somebody, which was like a pastor to her, like a pastor's wife or something. And the woman was like, I feel like you're the one. You're the one making your husband beat you and all that. You need to calm down, pray for him. These are the things that, people are going through. And she said that was how she locked up and said she wasn't going to talk to anybody, because if you can trust somebody and the person is telling you you're the one, and you know deep down that you're not the one, this person is a psychopath. She said her husband was a horrible person, that after beating her, he's going to come crying to everybody to come and beg her. Those kind of people. He will kneel down, buy gift, those kind of dramatic, mentally derailed people. But then she said, I gathered up courage to speak to this woman. What she could tell me was, I'm the bad person because she's outgoing, outspoken, that she needs to calm down for her husband, she needs to pray and all that. And eventually she escaped. Thank God that she's alive today.
See,
So,
I'll
okay.
I'll tell you something.
All right.
There are always triggers for all these things.
How do you
Now,
mean?
now as a life transformation coach, 95% of my clients are women,
Okay.
and 100% of them are married to narcissists. Now, a narcissist is a person who has a mental disorder, and all they want to do is to control. You see, they use emotional and verbal abuse to rob you of your identity. They make you as a woman or as a man, depending on what divide you are,
Yeah.
to feel less than you are yourself, and then you begin to doubt yourself. You depend on them for validation. They do it to keep you subjected. After a while, you totally lose control of
Yourself,
yourself and what.
yes.
So you see, there are different kinds of domestic violence. There's the physical one, which is popular, but you see, the worst one is the emotional one.
Emotional. That
You
one
see
is
me every
horrible.
day, I'm your husband. Stupid woman. Look at you.
What
Oh
kind
my
of hair
God.
is this?
What kind of hair is this? What made me get married to you? When you keep hearing things like
Over
that
and over
all
again.
the time, you are being emotionally and
Damaged.
verbally abused. And it's a lot of mental torture to remain in that kind of environment. So I tell people, when these things happen, go for help. Speak out. Go for help. Let people know before it is too late.
And go for help. To go to the right people for help.
Yes, the right people, not
Absolutely.
people who will see things from a holistic perspective and call both of you, not people that will say go and pray. Now,
Or you are the bad one.
let me tell you something. I'm a pastor. I 100% believe in faith. I 100% believe in prayers, but I will tell you something. There is no marriage involved in domestic violence that prayer has ever changed.
Wow.
That's the truth. That's the truth. And people who are narcissistic from a scientific perspective, they never change. You know why they never change? They
Why?
will never go for help because they believe that it is you that something is wrong with.
Because they refuse to accept that something is wrong with them.
Yeah,
So,
their worldview is totally different. So they will never go for help. So you see, prayer hardly changes things in marriage. You need to go for professional help
wow,
and cry out.
absolutely. Cry out and go for professional help, because really, you need it. Okay, so before we come to the end of today's show, recently people have been posting because of what happened to Sinachi, and someone said, should gifted women, ever get married? Because now it looks like, because the man is maybe intimidated by her success and all that. So now most women that are successful or gifted or career women are now running away from marriage. Is that the right response?
No, that's not. You don't solve a problem by creating another problem. You don't solve a problem by reacting. You need to respond. So I'm gifted. My wife is also equally gifted.
Gifted.
So I'm an introvert. My wife is an extrovert. So if you see us doing anything on the outside social media, just know that my wife, she's gifted. But what I've done to her is this: I have recognized her strengths. I'm not threatened by whatever she
Right.
does.
Yeah.
And like I was discussing before we came here, this marriage ministry that we do is my wife's. I'm only a supporter.
You said so.
You understand? I'm only
Uh-huh.
a supporter. I'm supporting her because I want her to be successful. When my wife is successful, I get the glory.
You're
So
successful
I'm not intimidated. It makes my work easier. I don't want a wife who will be 100% dependent on
on
me.
you.
No, my wife has her own vision, her own ministry, and her own identity. I don't. My wife's name is Olusola. She's not. I don't want people to know her as Pastor Wole's wife. I want her to be known as Ololade Olusola in her own right. She knows what she's doing. So that's what I want for her. So you see, it's about understanding the benefits you gain from embracing the gifts and the talents of your wife.
Spouse.
So it's about that gifted wife making the right choice, and then it works out well. You understand?
Yeah, thank you. So, what final advice would you give to those that want to get married?
Uh, the final advice I'm going to give is what I've said before. Things hardly go wrong in life.
Yeah, things
They
hardly go
start
wrong. They
wrong.
start wrong.
They
So,
start. See,
do not start wrong.
I've never seen anybody who died from marrying late, but I've seen people die
Mm,
for making the wrong choices. So, see, shine your eyes
mm.
very well. Be very certain that you are making the right choice. If you are not sure that choice is right, carry people along so that they can see what you are not seeing. You know, love makes blind. Love is
Yes,
blind.
to
So
an
that they can see
extent.
people what they can see what you are not seeing,
Hmm.
and then help you to see the right flag. So take your time before you make that decision to get married.
Wow, this is an amazing show. Thank you for all the knowledge and what you've told us on the show today. Thank you, guys. You've been listening to the BRR show on TLIG Africa TV. It's your girl Jkay. This show comes to you every Wednesday by 2 p.m. Don't miss it. All right. So you can follow us on all social media platforms at TLIG Africa TV, TLIG review show. That's going to come up after now. And me, I'm your girl, JK underscore OAP. So if you go on Instagram, Twitter, JK underscore OAP.